Welcome back team, welcome back to the Dowology YouTube channel. If you're new around here, my name's Reese, I'm a military officer in the Royal Air Force and part owner of Dowology, which is a family run learning and education business specialising in career and life skills. Now if you're interested in a career in the police and you want to know what skills are required for that role, then stick around because this video will definitely be for you. Now, what I left out of that highly tailored, highly edited introduction is that in addition to being a military firefighting officer, I've actually had another career, and that's in the police, as a police officer and then as a detective. So my career has been a little bit unusual to most, and I'll probably do a separate video just covering all the ins and outs, dates, movements around that I've done. The gist of it is I did 9 years as a military officer. I then left the military and joined the police service, and my local police service being Police Scotland. And I did that for 5 years, and then after 2 years of being a response officer, I then moved into detective roles. And then after 5 years of being in the police as a police officer and then a detective, I then left the police and went back into the military, what I'm currently doing just now as a firefighting officer in the RAF. So with that out of the way, let's get into my top 5 skills of a police officer, and stick around to the end for a bonus skill which I'll cover. So coming up, number 1, it has to be for me team working. When you're a police officer, unsurprisingly, you work as part of a team. But what's really interesting is that you work as part of many teams. Let's take a response police officer, a uniformed police officer for an example. So as a uniformed police officer, you work specifically with another person, and this normally gets called a pair. Now, depending on what part of the country you're in, it can get called something else, as your double up, your oppo. In some places they call it your neighbour. I don't really understand that one, if I'm honest. But for this, let's just call it a pair, a double up, a pair. We'll go for pair. So you're working with that other person specifically, and you're going out to calls and you're working in the same vehicle together. But as part of that 2-person team, you're actually working together as a larger team, and that'll be a team that's based at your station. And at that station, that can comprise of anywhere between, on the smaller scale, maybe 6, to the larger scale up to maybe 16. And part of that team that you're working on a station with, no doubt you'll have sort of sister stations that are close by. So you as a 2-person team work in a bigger team on a station that works in a bigger geographical area across many stations. So you can start to really see that from one small team, you're actually working in many different teams. So having a good understanding of being a part of a team, being a team member, but most importantly being a good team member, is absolutely critical to your role as a police officer. And policing works not just by the sum of efforts of one person, but the contributed efforts of many. Now there'll be some occasions when your individual effort will be the contributing factor to, say, detecting a crime, identifying a suspect. But more times than not, it's the contributed effort of the team that comes about with a safe and secure resolution. And that only works if everybody on the team, everybody, pulls their fair weight and contributes to the team. I mean, the best teams are teams that the first thing that they do is look out for each other. That is one of the best qualities of working on a good team. And this is actually an area, as in team working, that has a lot of attention attributed to it during the application process, with interviews specifically. And the application of people applying to be a police officer is actually something I'm working with quite heavily just now, so keep your eyes peeled on this channel for more information about that. So let's talk a little bit about emotional intelligence. This was a phrase and a concept that I was first introduced to in 2012 during my military officer training, and it really left quite a notable mark on me, because it's one of those things that you kind of have an understanding of, but until somebody explains it to you, explains the concept and really just puts it down on paper, that you actually start to get a really good understanding of it. And emotional intelligence it's really somebody's ability to have an understanding of how somebody's feeling through their emotions, through their body language, and just having that awareness of how somebody's currently feeling. when you're actually interacting with them. Now this could be a very difficult skill if it doesn't come naturally to you. And understandably, this is a really, really important skill for any police officer or detective of any rank to have. I mean, again, we'll use a response police officer as an example. The variety of incidents that you're going to on a daily basis just vary so much. You could be in the morning dealing with a road traffic collision or road traffic accident, depending on what part of the country you're from. In the afternoon, you could be delivering a death message to a loved one. And in the latter part of the afternoon, or when you're delayed, you could be dealing with a domestic incident. And the skill, and I'm going to call it a skill, the skill to be able to identify how somebody is actually feeling when you're dealing with them, it's just critical to being able to execute your duties correctly as a constable. An example, if we just look at it there, for the response police officer, dealing with an RTC, they're dealing with the victim of an RTC or the person involved in the RTC, and they're saying, how are you feeling? How are you feeling? And the person could just be saying, yeah, I'm fine. But really, they're in a state of shock, and they've got that 1,000-yard stare, just staring off into the distance. Now, with your high level of emotional intelligence, you're able to determine that person's not okay. Now, what are you going to do? Are you going to just go, right, okay, there you go, the bus is over there, see you after? That's not what you're going to do. You're going to organise getting them home safely, whether you're taking them home or you're getting a family member to come and pick them up. That's just that base level of emotional intelligence, just to be able to look at somebody's body language, how they're presenting, and just think, I think I could see how you're actually feeling. And the same could be with the domestic incident. So you attend a domestic incident and you speak to the victim, and they're staring down, looking at their feet, coming across very disinterested, not really answering any of your questions. Are you just going to think they're rude? Are you just going to think, they're not interested? Well, no, you're going to use your emotional intelligence to really be able to determine how that person's actually coming across and how they're actually feeling. Knowing how someone is feeling, even though they aren't telling you, it's a superpower when it comes to policing. And some people are just naturally in tune with other people's emotions. They can just intrinsically understand how somebody's feeling at any given situation through their body language, their tone, their lack of eye contact or eye contact. And sometimes that just comes very, very naturally to people. And to others, this is something that they really have to work on. And that's what's great about emotional intelligence. It's absolutely something that you can work on. Look at me, for example. I'm a prime example. I wasn't very emotionally intelligent when I was in my 20s, and I worked on it. I started to interpret people's body language, their facial expressions, their tone, eye contact, just everything I could to really get an understanding of how somebody's feeling when I'm interacting with them. And it's helped me absolutely massively, to the point where I actually don't have to think about being emotionally intelligent. It actually comes quite natural to me, but it's only come natural to me through a bit of graft and really concentrating and thinking about it. Okay, let's move on to information handling. So, as a police officer, on any given day, you could be handling a large amount of information. Sometimes a ridiculously large amount of information across a very short time frame. And your ability to store and process information in your head really makes a good police officer great. So in the morning, you'll receive briefings about what's occurred since your last tour of duty, what sort of crimes and incidents have happened in your area. It can also involve missing people and definitely the most wanted people in your area. And it's those people that you really need to keep your eyes peeled for when you're on shift. And that's just a taste of the information that you're expected to store and handle at 0700 hours. And this information needs to stay with you throughout your entire shift. So should you be driving through the high street and catch eyes with the most wanted person, you're able to just recall that information that you've stored, process it, and then carry out the necessary actions of chasing and then arresting that person. Now, on a day-to-day basis, you'll attend numerous amounts of calls. Some of them will be routine, as in the incident isn't ongoing, it's something that's happened previously, but a large proportion of those incidents will be ongoing, as in the crime or the incident is occurring as the person is dialing in for assistance. And this could vary from somebody stealing a pack of meat and running off out of a supermarket, to somebody being stabbed and the suspect making off, to somebody jumping in a car and driving off in a specific direction. Now this information is going to come to you through your radio and through your earpiece, thick and fast. I can't express this enough. It's a lot of information, loud, fast and direct, and it's your job to be able to cut through that information and pick out the most pertinent parts that you need to remember, store, and then obviously process as well. And any good cop will tell you that's things like, what is the suspect wearing, direction of travel, make and model of car, if the person has been named. All this information and stuff that you want to be able to get straight away so you can carry out the necessary actions. And it's this information handling that ultimately allows you to take control of a situation, process information, and take control of the overall situation. Now that might sound quite daunting to you, but it's important to remember that that's not what's expected from you on day one. That amount of information will come across, but you'll be working with somebody that's more experienced and is able to tutor you and explain to you that this is the information you need to know and this is what you need to do with it. And again, this is another skill that you can work on, and you will work on it. And this is something that could be improved. On your first day, you might not be very good at that, but by a couple of months in, you'll be able to have a good understanding of what information it is that's required to be stored, processed, and then dealt with. And again, information handling is another area that gets a lot of attention during the application process for the police. So that's something that will be covered in the future courses that I'll be doing. So problem solving. This is a skill really that it's kind of universal to pretty much any job. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a job that doesn't require some level of problem solving. And being a police officer is absolutely no different there. You're required to use problem solving. Probably out of all the skills, you're required to use problem solving absolutely on a daily basis. And every incident that you go to, you will be having to use problem solving. If you think about it, people tend not to phone the police for a chit chat, although some do and then end up getting arrested for wasting police time. But people tend not to phone the police for a chit chat. They phone you because there's a problem and they want it solved. And when they phone you, that's because an incident's happened or a crime has been committed and they want that fixed. They ultimately want their problem to be fixed, and that person that's going to fix it is not me anymore, but it's the police officer. And now some incidents you go to or problems that you go to will become quite routine. You'll be able to walk in there, analyse what the issue is and come up with a correct course of action pretty quickly. But the beauty of being a police officer is that it doesn't matter how long you've been in the job. There's times when you'll go to incidents, you could be in the job for 20 years and you'll go to an incident and it's something that you have never dealt with, whether there be a variable change in the crime type or it's just something you've never come across. And that's the beauty of it. You could be very deep into your career, 20 years deep in, and you're still using problem solving, maybe not on a daily basis, but you're certainly still having to use problem solving from time to time. And that's why problem solving for me is such an important skill, especially for people aspiring to be a police officer or people very early on in their service. If you can get problem solving down as a skill that you've got in your back pocket, then you really will be quite a great police officer. Okay, here we go. I've left communication to the last because for me, it's absolutely the most important skill. The skill above all skills is communication. And for this video, I'm just going to refer to communication in the verbal sense, just to keep it a little bit more simple. Really, if you've got this skill, communication, as a skill set that you possess, you could arguably be successful in almost any industry. If you've got good communication skills, then you've got the power of persuasion and you've got such a huge level of leverage that you can use throughout that industry. And again, this is definitely a skill that you don't have to be born with. This is something that you could be developing over your time before you join the police. What's really interesting is that you'll find a lot of people that join the police maybe later in life and they've had just a normal job or what they refer to as a normal job. can really come into the police and be exceptional at communication. And they're exceptional in communication because in their normal job, call it a normal job, they've just been public facing, they've been speaking to members of the public their entire career, and they've just got used to it and actually got really good at it. And an example of this is somebody that I know that joined the police a little bit later in life, late 30s, and before he joined the police, his viewpoint was that he'd never done anything with his life, really. He had just normal jobs, working in bars and stuff like that, and just never really achieved anything. But he came into the police and he was just exceptional at speaking to drunk people. And even when you've joined the police, that doesn't mean to say you join the police and then you just stop working on anything regarding your skill set. If you work on anything, communication is the one that you want to work on. Something that I've always said is that the most important bit of PPE, which is personal protection equipment, that a police officer can have is communication. It's not the baton, it's not the handcuffs, it's not the taser, it's your mouth. That is the most important bit of PPE that you've got. And if you can work on that your entire career, then you'll be a really successful cop. The ability to use your communication skills on people of all walks of life, in either states of crisis or just absolute pure rage, that ability to de-escalate that situation can change the incident completely, 180 degrees, and really change the outcome of that incident, both for yourself from a safety point of view, but also for the individual that you're dealing with. If I could suggest one skill to work on, if you have not joined the police but you are considering it, it has to be communication skills. If you can work on that area, the other areas will come, but you have to have a good sense of communication for a police officer. So that's my top 5 skills for a police officer. I think at the start of the video, I did say I was going to give a bonus tip. So let's have a little think about that bonus tip. So if you look at the skills that I chose, which are teamwork, emotional intelligence, information handling, problem solving and communication skills, the bonus skill or bonus tip is that they're actually all interlinked. If you have good emotional intelligence, then you'll be aware of your place and your role when working within a team and working with others. If you have the ability to handle information, it will enhance your problem solving skills because you'll have the pertinent information to solve it. And if you can communicate, then you'll be able to explain. So if you've made it to the end of this video, firstly, thank you very much. These were only the top 5 skills that I chose. Realistically, I could have picked another 15 skills, if I'm honest. And I will probably go more in depth in a later video. But for now, I just wanted to cover the main top 5 skills that I thought are most important for a police officer. As this is one of my first videos, maybe my first 5, I would really be interested to know your thoughts and suggestions about the video. If there's anything I need to improve, bang it in the comment section below. I really would appreciate that feedback. If I get asked to like and subscribe this video, I guess that's what the YouTubers say all the time. If you could like and subscribe it, it will really help us out moving forward for the channel. And if you want to check out our website, then check out the description below and you can check out our blogs. Let us know what you think. If you like them, let me know. If you don't, then not. And you can always get in contact with us through our email address, just if you want to chat about anything that we've discussed. And as always, I hope you enjoy your week and I will catch you in the next video.